I woke up to the low rumble of bass thumping in the distance, a steady, pulsing beat that rattled the glass on my nightstand. At first, I thought I was still half asleep, caught in some weird dream. Maybe it was thunder rolling in, or perhaps my neighbor's teenage kid had gotten his hands on a new sound system. But when I yanked back the curtain and peered out the window, my jaw practically hit the floor. My quiet, sprawling pasture, my land, was now a chaotic sea of people. A full-blown music festival had taken over. Hundreds of strangers were wandering around, laughing, drinking, and dancing. Towering speakers stood where my horse stables used to be, and a garish, neon-lit stage squatted right in the middle of the field, pumping out music so loud I could feel it vibrating in my chest from inside the house. Food trucks were parked along my fence line. Vendors hawked overpriced festival gear. And, wait, was that a mechanical bull? I blinked hard, trying to make sense of it, but my brain couldn't process the madness. I threw on a jacket and stormed outside, my boots crunching against the cracked, dry earth as I marched toward the insanity. My horses were huddled at the far end of the pasture, their eyes wide with panic. A couple of guys were hammering metal stakes into the ground, stringing up banners that read Lila's Freedom Fest. I had no clue who Lila was, but I was about to find out. Pushing through the swarm of festival goers, I spotted her near a makeshift ticket booth. She was tall, brunette, decked out in oversized sunglasses and a flashy jumpsuit that screamed, "I've never done a day of hard work." She was barking orders at a group of people in matching staff t-shirts. I strode right up to her. "What in the hell is going on here?" I demanded. Lila barely flicked her eyes my way, too busy yapping about VIP wristbands to someone else. When she finally turned, she sized me up like I was some stray mutt that had wandered into her domain. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone oozing with fake politeness. "Yeah, you can help me by explaining why you and half the county are throwing a party on my land," I shot back. She let out a little laugh, peeling off her sunglasses. "Your land? Oh, honey, this is public property. We got approval from the community board." I stared at her, stunned. "No, you didn't. I own this land. My family's owned it for generations." She sighed, loud and dramatic, like I was some kid throwing a fit. "Look, I don't know what to tell you. We've sold thousands of tickets. People are coming from all over for this. You should be thanking me. Your little patch of dirt's about to get famous." My eye twitched. "Famous? Lady, I don't need fame. I need you off my property." Lila's fake smile dropped, replaced by a scowl. She crossed her arms. "I don't have time for this. If you've got a problem, take it up with the city. We're not going anywhere." I took a deep breath, fighting the urge to lose it. "I'm calling the cops." She smirked, unfazed. "Go ahead. I'll tell them you're harassing a legit event. Let's see how that works out for you." I clenched my teeth. This woman was unhinged. I stepped away, pulling out my phone as I moved out of the music's deafening range to call the police. The dispatcher's response was a gut punch. "Sir, we're swamped tonight. Unless there's an immediate danger, we can't send anyone right away." I hung up, gripping my phone so tight I thought it might crack. Lila had this planned. She knew she could get away with it long enough to make it unstoppable. I glanced back at the field. More people were flooding in, snapping selfies, trampling my grass, tossing beer cans and trash everywhere. My horses were freaking out. The fence was half smashed, and my property looked like a war zone overrun by influencers, partiers, and hustlers. Then I saw it. A guy setting up a sign, "Mechanical bull rides, $20 a turn." They weren't just trespassing, they were profiting off my land. I caught sight of Lila again, posing for photos with a gaggle of hyped-up influencers, all waving their wristbands like they were at some exclusive gala. That was it. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd play dirtier. I wasn't just going to call the cops. I was going to dismantle this circus in a way she'd never see coming. I stormed back to my house, my mind racing with a plan. First, I'd hit up the health department. Those food trucks couldn't possibly be licensed, and sanitation was probably a joke. Then, animal control. Someone had a damn python slithering around, and I'd bet exotic pets weren't kosher at an unpermitted event. Next, the fire department. Those generators and tangled wires had to be breaking a dozen codes. And for the knockout punch, the IRS. Lila was raking in cash from tickets and vendors, and I'd wager she hadn't reported a dime. I started with the health department, keeping my voice steady as I reported an unregulated festival with food stalls and booze vendors, no permits in sight. I tossed in a worried mention of food poisoning risks and filthy conditions. They took it seriously, promising to send someone ASAP. I could already picture Lila's smug face crumbling when the inspectors showed up. Next, I called animal control. I'd seen a guy with a massive python draped over his shoulders, a woman with a baby alligator in a tank, and an influencer with a parrot screeching over the music. I told them exotic animals were loose without permits, a clear safety issue. "We'll be right there," they said, especially interested in the alligator. Then, the fire department. I pointed out the mess of speakers, wires, and generators, plus the fact that someone was setting up fireworks. "We're sending a team now," they replied. Finally, the IRS. I gave them Lila's name, the event title, clips from her live streams bragging about the cash haul, and my hunch that none of it was taxed. "We'll look into it," the agent said. I strolled back to the festival, blending into the chaos. The music pounded harder, the crowd swelling as influencers live-streamed their epic night. Then the first domino fell. A health department van rolled up. A guy with a clipboard and two uniformed inspectors hopped out, heading straight for the food stalls. They flashed badges, demanded permits, and started shutting things down, confiscating food, grilling vendors about sanitation. Panic spread as stalls closed. Lila noticed and charged over, arms flailing, trying to sweet-talk her way out of it. "This is a private event," she insisted. The inspectors didn't care. Without paperwork, she was sunk. While she was distracted, animal control pulled up. 3 officers scanned the crowd. I pointed out the python guy, the alligator lady, and the parrot influencer. They moved fast, seizing the animals. The python guy claimed it was his emotional support snake. "Yeah, right." The alligator woman sobbed as they took her pet away. The festival was unraveling now. Attendees whispered, some edging toward the exits. Then the fire department arrived. Firefighters took one look at the electrical mess and started shutting it down, fire hazards everywhere. When they saw the fireworks, one called for backup. Lila, cornered and furious, made her dumbest move yet. She whipped out her phone and called the cops herself. 2 cruisers rolled up minutes later, lights flashing. She smirked triumphantly, pointing at me. "That man's harassing my event. He's trespassing and sabotaging us. I have a legal permit." The officers, a mustached guy in his 40s and a woman with short hair, turned to me. I stayed cool. "This is my land. I never approved this." Lila jumped in. "He's lying. I have a lease." She shoved her phone at the mustached officer, showing some document. He squinted at it, then muttered to his partner. The woman typed something into her phone, then spoke up. "Ma'am, this lease is fake. The document number's bogus, and the landowner listed doesn't exist." Lila's face went white. I pulled out my own phone, showing my land deed. The officer nodded. "That's legit." Lila snapped. "You can't trust him over me." The mustached officer shut her down. "Ma'am, you lied to us, ran an illegal event, and racked up safety violations. I'd stop talking if I were you." Her confidence shattered. She stood there, fists clenched, fear creeping into her eyes. The festival collapsed from there. Attendees filmed and whispered as vendors packed up, health inspectors confiscated more gear, and animal control hauled off the pets. The music died. Lila's influencer pals slinked away, pretending they weren't involved. Then the IRS showed up, 2 plainclothes agents with badges. They questioned her about ticket sales, vendor fees, and untaxed profits, pulling up her own livestream clips as proof. She stammered, playing dumb, but they had her dead to rights. As if that wasn't enough, some idiot ignored the fire department and set off fireworks. A spark hit dry grass near a food stall, and a small blaze flared up. People yelled, backing off as firefighters rushed in. It was out in minutes, but it sealed Lila's fate. The lead officer turned to her. "Ma'am, you're coming with us." She lost it, screaming, "This isn't fair. He did this," pointing at me like a madwoman. An officer stepped between us, cuffing her as she ranted. The crowd gasped, phones out, filming her downfall. As they dragged her to the cruiser, the festival staff looked shell-shocked, their scam in ruins. I surveyed my trashed pasture, broken fences, garbage everywhere. It'd take weeks to fix, but I didn't care. Lila was finished. I'd won. Days later, the story blew up online. Videos of Lila's meltdown, the shutdown, the memes. People dubbed it the biggest influencer flop ever. Her sponsors bailed, her friends ghosted, and the IRS dug up more tax evasion. She was toast. A documentary crew even contacted me, wanting to feature the fiasco. I agreed, as long as I got a cut. My Pasture went from an illegal party ground to a cautionary tale, and I got the last laugh.